It's the Fellowship of the Geek Show, a weekly podcast about comics, the comic book industry, and other geek pop culture. Music courtesy of Manny the Martyr. And now, on with the show!
Hey there, everybody. It's the Fellowship of the Geeks podcast. My name is Thomas Chick, and joining me for this episode is Mike Marlowe.
Hey, gang.
Les Webster.
Hello.
Oh, God. And Liz Newman.
Hello, everybody.
Oh, boy.
Sounds like Les has got a hold of the good cough syrup this week.
Share with the class. Share with the class.
I think we spent too much time in pre-show.
Maybe.
Now we've already lost them. I hope everybody's doing okay out there, because we certainly aren't, as you can tell.
I don't know. It seems like we're doing okay.
We're doing good, man.
So what's been going on in your corner of the galaxy, he says. Reluctantly.
Oh, man. Well, I finally got around to watching Loki. I'll be honest.
Oh, damn.
It's not the other stuff that they've put out so far, Mandalorian, WandaVision. No, I have not watched the Falcon and Winter Soldier yet. It didn't have that wow to it the way the others did. And it starts off pretty cool, but it's missing something. I know a lot was riding on this season to kind of lead way into the Spider-Man movie that's coming up. And I can see how that happened, how they set that up pretty good. And I can also see how they set up for Doctor Strange to really come in and fix things, because Loki has messed some stuff up.
Go figure.
Well, it's not those two movies. Apparently, it's really setting up this fourth phase. I don't know if you guys saw it, but I posted something on Discord, a little article that's speculating that, hey, this, especially the way this season ended, and it is a season. They've already announced that there is going to be a second season of Loki.
Yeah.
Which they have not done that for WandaVision or Falcon. Well, Falcon and Winter Soldier, that's leading up to the next Captain America movie. They've already kind of said that. So,
well,
but they could
no
be
way for. Oh, go ahead.
Okay. That it could possibly be leading up to a movie version of the Secret Wars.
Oh, Lord.
With all the different times and universes.
I could see that too. Because they did a number on the timeline. and at the very last episode, of course, the only scene, the cut scene that they had was to announce that there was a second season coming up. Yeah. WandaVision would have been hard to have a second season because the way it ended, she set everything back to normal. But spoiler alert, at the end of that season, her cutscene, it showed her, I don't know the proper word for it. She's like making coffee while out of her body she's like training.
Her astral projection was reading the Darkhold.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, she hears her kids cry. And people are like, well, why is she hearing her kids cry? Because she reset that whole, town, which her kids were part of that fantasy. Well, what happens in Loki, and with what they do to the timeline, it's very possible for her kids to be back because they were on another timeline. Because she did have to create another timeline in order to take this town out of their timeline and do what she did, So I think that's how they tied WandaVision in to the end of that. She's hearing her kids from another timeline. So, but with everything split and fractured and everything else, that's where we can get 3 Spider-Mans, because the multiverses have imploded. And, so I can see how they're setting this up to explain, okay, here's why we need Doctor Strange to come. So that part of it was really good. I think that had I been a bigger Marvel fan, I may have picked up on a lot of the Easter eggs that they've thrown out here, because there was things that they made sure to show us that I was kind of like, well, what the hell is that? There was like a frog jumping in a jar trying to get Thor's hammer. And I don't know if that was maybe from a comic book reference or...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there was a time where Thor was a frog.
Okay.
So, yeah. So that was part of Walt Simonson's run, and it's there was a lot of people on social media that were just digging that.
Yeah, I mean, it was cute, and they made sure you saw it.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't just a flash. It was it was Thor, not Flash.
That's DC, right?
And it was cool to see all of the Loki versions of comic book characters that there have been. They were all in one place. Once again, spoiler alert. It's kind of where they put everything to die. And there's like 20 Lokis here. One of them being an alligator, So the ending was a lot better than what they brought you through to get there. And I will say, as invested as they get you into this, the last probably 30 seconds of the last episode, I cried. I mean, it was just, it's heartbreaking. It's very sad. So they have to bring it back because we want to know what happened there, But like I said, if you're a Marvel fan and you do know, the Loki lore, then it's probably an easier watch for you than it was for me, because I felt like some things that they mentioned, I was supposed to know what they were talking about, but I didn't know what they were talking about. And this pretty much picks up from where he was arrested, where the Avengers arrested him in, not Endgame, but the one before that. So it was pretty cool that they show you there where he had been and what's going on, and kind of makes you wonder if Loki's changing. I mean, impossible.
Yeah, right.
Right. And he does fall in love with himself. I won't explain that any more than that, but he does fall in love with himself. So, yeah, that one was pretty interesting. I think that's all I've really watched. Well, I've watched stupid stuff, but nothing you guys would want to hear about. I've been watching a lot of true crime. Although, have you guys ever heard of The Toxic Lady? I think it was in I know there's a lot of Karens running around nowadays, but this was totally in the literal term. She was toxic. Lady in California found out that she had cervical cancer. By the time she finds out she has cervical cancer, she's in stage 4. And so, of course, they put her on chemo and everything else, but she's in so much pain. Not a lot they can do to help her, but, kind of make her easy at this point. Well, apparently she used some kind of oil that you can get in a mechanic's shop. It's like a grease kind of thing, but it helps with pain. It cleans your hands, but they also said they used to use it for pain. It used to be like the miracle drug, but they no longer give it to people. But you can still buy it at the auto parts store. Totally strange, right? Well, when she complained one night to her husband that she couldn't breathe. So he calls 911 and the ambulance comes and picks her up. And when they do, they stick an oxygen mask on her. Not the nose capsules, but the oxygen mask. Well, she gets to the hospital, and of course the room is flooded because her blood pressure is dropping quick and they can't get her stable. So she has people coming in and out of the room trying to get her stabilized. The lady who took her blood said that it smelled like garlic and that you could see this oil sheen all over her. Well, the lady who's taking her blood walks out of the room and just falls out on the floor. She passes out. So, they take her and they get her situated. Well, the doctor who's been working with her this whole time walks out. Same thing. She winds up dropping out. Well, the rest of the people inside this lady's room start getting really lightheaded. And so they evacuate the emergency room, put everybody outside because at this point they do not know what's going on. They don't know if this lady is like radioactive and that's why she's poisoning people, but people are like really getting severely fucked up. Well, they can't save the lady. She winds up dying, and like hazmat comes in to take her body and everything else to do an autopsy to find out why all of these people are sick, because the main doctor who took care of her wound up in the ICU for like 2 months because pretty much all of her internal organs were just shutting down on her. And she to this day, she still can't walk right. So, they do an autopsy and everything else. And at first, gotta love the health department. They explained that since a lot of the victims were women, they chalked it up to mass hysteria. Mass hysteria, shut down organs and, made people sick and die. And, so the doctor who was in ICU, when she heard about this, she was like, bullshit. You can't tell me I'm dying right now of mass hysteria. There was something going on. Well, the more and more they put together, they found out that with her radiation she was taking for chemo, with the DMO, I think is what it was either DSO or DMO that she had used for pain. Normally these two things together aren't going to hurt you. But what wound up hurting her is when she called the ambulance and they put the oxygen mask on her face. The oxygen, or O2, was allowed to go over her skin and mix with this oil stuff that she had on. So now you have whatever the oxygen, whatever chemical it's now making with this DMO stuff, seeping into her blood, going into the radiation, basically made her toxic. Anybody who touched her at that point would have been sick. So it was really sad because, had they have known that she had this stuff on her, God love her. If you're in that much pain, you got to do what you got to do. This wasn't it's kind of like an old wives method that she was using to get some relief. But had they have known she was using that, she may not have died. They may have been able to, They
may have known better than to pump her full of pure oxygen.
Yeah.
To start that chain reaction.
But, through this whole thing, they have, of course, they have to totally clean the emergency room and everything else. They never went back to her house. Like, ground zero. She left a husband and a child there, and they never went and checked on them. I mean, you know what I'm saying? That would have been the first place. Let's go check out what's going on in Home Lady's house. Maybe there's a leak there, but they never went and checked her house. Or not that they said on this podcast thing I was listening to. So it was like, damn. But she'll forever be known as the toxic lady, So,
yeesh.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy, but it was just one coincidence after another that just piled on and killed her, And it's kind of weird because when I watched that one, I wasn't meant to watch that one. I actually clicked on one that was talking about it was a satanic cult victim that had been murdered. And that's what I'd clicked on. So they're talking about this lady having cancer and being in pain, and I'm like, well, did they kill her in the emergency room for a satanic ritual? I mean, I kept waiting for when is the satanic thing coming? Did she die because she was, getting herbs from a Satanist? I mean, what's going on? But come to find out, the guy on YouTube just titled the video wrong. So it's kind of one of those, the whole time you're sitting there going, okay, when does Satan come in?
Clerical error.
Was the nurse a Satanist? I mean, what's going on here?
Or was it?
Well, and the annoying part is the video is a couple of days old, and by now somebody has told this guy, hey, your title doesn't go with the video,
Well, it's got to be in the comments. Come on.
Yeah, and he hasn't changed it. So it's,
He's probably getting more views this way.
Well, a couple of videos back, I finally was able to watch the Satanist one, but, it's like...
Thank God.
That one was weird, but, I was able to watch that one, but...
That one was weird as opposed to Toxic Lady. Okay.
Yeah. Well, these kids thought by listening to Slayer that if they killed this virgin, that Satan would grant them favor and they would rock their ass off or something. They thought they were going to get famous and everything else, that Satan was going to be like, oh, these are my homeboys, and they, yeah.
That's how it always works.
Yeah. But thank God that one of the kids who was involved in all of this, I mean, I won't go into detail. It was nasty what they did to this girl. But one of the kids who was involved in it finally got a conscience and was kind of like, I think they said he found God too and everything else. And he was kind of like, that's kind of fucked up. So he separated himself from these two boys, and they pretty much told him, if you're not with us, you're against us. And so he was going to be their next victim. So he went to the cops and was like, hey, this is what we did. This is where you can find her, And they never got a record deal or anything. Slayer went on trial twice over what these kids did. And, I always think it's crazy when people blame music or video games or that kind of thing. If your child can be that influenced by something they're listening to, you should have already had them at a therapist. You should have already been helping this person before, there was more problems there before the music came along, is what I'm trying to say.
You're assuming that people actually pay attention to their children.
Right. And sadly, a lot of them, it's like, oh, I didn't know. Then they go shoot up the school, and they're like, well, you didn't know he had bomb-making stuff and 6 guns, and, yes, they knew. But it's easier to blame someone else. And in this case...
Well, especially if that someone else has money and we can sue them.
Yeah. Well, and they kind of made a point to... now, Slayer, of course, made it very easy with their lyrics and stuff. They kind of made a point to comb through their music and make certain songs fit what happened. And even the boys were like, no, that's not why we did that. Cool that Slayer said that, but that's not why we did that. So even the kids were saying it wasn't the music. We're just assholes, And, but
a kid admitting that, no.
Right.
Yeah, it's a little too far-fetched now.
Well, and had I have been Slayer, though, I know they got sued by the family, and that sucks. I mean, it really does suck to be blamed for something that you had no control over. But I think I would have kind of put out some kind of statement like, hey, don't go off and kill virgins to our music, please. I mean, something to kind of put that fire out, because it's not cool. And you used our name to do that, and that's not cool, you know?
Or something to that effect, yeah.
Yeah. But I think this happened back in the 90s. I think it was the 90s, because the girl was 5 years younger than I am. And two of the boys are still locked up, and they have no possibility of parole. And one of them, I think, gets out next year. Well, he's up for parole next year. He's already been up for parole, but they've denied him twice. And it's kind of weird they denied him, because he's the one who came forward and showed that he had a conscience and some kind of remorse for what happened, you know. Not saying that helps the family or anything, but actually it kind of did. They did find their daughter. It may not have been the way they wanted to, but they did find her, and they did get closure, and he did tell him who was responsible for that. So that should give him some kind of credit. But I think, now that I say that, I think he was kind of, they tried to kill the girl once, and she thought they were playing. I'm sorry. Somebody try to kill me. I don't think you're going to play. You know, you're not playing.
Well,
and if so, I don't play that way.
See, that depends on how bad they are at trying to kill her. I mean, if they just completely missed the mark, then she may not have recognized that they were actually trying to kill her.
Well, no, the kid, they pushed her down like this cliff thing. And the guy went down there with her, and the other guy that was up there threw a knife down to him. And, you know, he pulled it on her, and he kept telling her, kill her, kill her, kill her now, kill her now. Kid got so scared he couldn't do it, and pretty much pissed himself. And so she was like, oh, they were just playing. No, honey, they threw you down a cliff and pulled a knife on you. That's not playing, you know. You need to find some new friends.
Right. You need better games in your life.
Yeah.
That's not cool.
And it was kind of sad, because I can see how she fell into it. She was that kind of girl she was the good girl who wanted to hang out with the bad boys. You know, they were Satanists, and they had their band and played messed up music, and she wasn't that way, but she wanted to be cool, and you know what I'm saying? It was kind of, it was sad, because she just wanted them to like her, you know?
The murder was in 95.
95.
Yeah. Yep. July 95. The lawsuit was originally in 96, but it was delayed till 2000. According to this, the initial case was originally thrown out, the judge stating, quote, there's not a legal position that could be taken that would make Slayer responsible for the girl's death.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you draw the line? You might as well start looking through the library, every book on the shelf.
Yeah. And you have to agree with that. You know. Now, like I said, some of the lyrics, word for word, is what happened to this girl. But the kids were like, no, you know, that's not why we did that. It's pretty much Satan Handbook 101, you know. Mm. But it also teaches you these bands who, you know, rap stars, heavy metal, you name it. When you talk about a certain lifestyle that you don't even live, you know, you never know the ideal that you're planning. Somebody sees it as cool, and they're going to go out and pop Tupac. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's like it's all fun and games till someone takes you serious, you know?
Right, and you never really know when that's going to happen.
Yeah. Yep. It's like when Madonna was talking about blowing up the White House. Did I actually think Madonna was going to take a bomb and blow up the White House? No. But what sick fuck was sitting there listening to her that might, you know? Or, hell, John Lennon is dead because of somebody's, you know, obsession. And, you know, it's a scary world. You got to watch what you put out there. But, yeah. So that's what I watched. I watch Toxic and Satanism.
So a cheerful week in the Liz
cheerful.
household.
Right?
Yeah, sounds like it.
Yeah. Well, I've always been curious about how people, especially growing up Christian, how people could always say, "Oh, the devil made me do it." No, you did it. You're just looking for a scapegoat, and poor devil gets it all the time.
I have to admit that did not go where I thought it was going to go.
Either the devil's blamed for everything, or he gets beaten up by Bob Ross. So And if nobody gets that reference, it's the Joy of Painting, where he cleans off the brush and he starts beating the excess paint thinner. He says, "Beating the devil." So that's where that came from.
Cool.
Yeah, the joys of Bob Ross.
So top that, Mikey.
Yeah, funny story. You know how I'm going to top that? I'm going to top that by getting this done quick. I actually don't really have anything this week. The time that I had this week to find something to watch got cut short due to family stuff. And so I didn't really do anything interesting other than a lot of driving in a car with now no air conditioning, but that's a different problem, and I will deal with that as soon as I can. But yeah, fortunately we have another car for the next trip, which is next weekend. But it's all good. We'll manage. So I didn't get a chance to watch anything fun this week, so I kind of don't have nothing. Big bag of nothing.
No documentaries?
No documentary. Gonna go into withdrawal soon, but
Right.
So, top that, Les.
Do I have to?
Dude, I lobbed it up there for you. It shouldn't be difficult.
I too don't have much. Watching a little TV, and that's about it. I am trying to catch up on some binge watching, and that's been fun. But outside of that, not a hell of a lot.
I'm going to start posting my YouTube videos to you guys. Fall down the rabbit hole with me.
Don't you do it. Well, I don't have much myself. Slowly started doing prep work for October. We've already got that all put together, so I'm trying to get a head start on that. Working on some other stuff, podcast and fellowship related. So not a whole lot of fun stuff, but maybe that will change next week. So.
Cool.
Yep.
That's what you call
We
it.
can only hope.
That's what you call a tease, folks.
That is a tease. Yes, I know it's mid-July, but or by the time this comes out, it'll be toward late July. But yeah, we're thinking about October. Horror month is coming, so we got to get ready.
We're always thinking about October around here, but yeah.
Yeah.
I live in October.
Yeah, we know.
So, before we get into this week's discussion, I do want to point out, we kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier in the show, that we do have a Discord that you're more than welcome to come join. We post news items, we post stuff for discussion, post some movie suggestions, some funny videos, memes. We'll have a activity that's exclusively for the Discord. This month's been kind of fun so far. We've been kind of doing hypothetical questions, and it seems to be enjoyed by everybody. So Discord is free to join, to sign up. The app is free. If you go to our website, www.thefellowshipofthegeeks.net, and right there is a invite. You just click on that image that says join our Discord, and you're in. We would love to have you. Okay. We are wrapping up Retro Month with this episode. It's been kind of fun. It was kind of, I would say it was fun to kind of go back and listen to the original episodes, but I kind of cringe when I listen to my own voice, so there's that.
Welcome to my world.
What, you cringe when you listen to my speaking?
I listen to all of them.
So for this week, we are revisiting the topic from episode 28. Movies we'd love to see a sequel, but no, we won't.
28, huh? We were grizzled veterans by then. Jeez.
We were something then. I don't know what, but so who wants to lead off?
Well, this one for me was hard because I grew up in the 80s, 90s, and most of my stuff they've rebooted. They did make sequels, too many sequels. It's just that good time, First one that really popped into my head, which I know is going to totally surprise you guys. I would like to see a sequel to The Nightmare Before Christmas. And you're right. But not for the reasons people think, but because he needs to fix some things that he did in the first one if he wants to keep these characters well loved. And my opinion of the first one, Jack was an asshole. He totally ignored Sally. He had a one-track mind. He was going to do what he wanted to. He totally screwed up Christmas for one town, He made his town feel bad because they weren't good enough. So I would like to see a sequel come along to where he was like, you know what? I did get a little obsessed. I should have done things a little differently, and just give us a different story where he's not an asshole,
Basically, the whole movie is, I'm sorry about that, everyone. Sorry.
Right. Well, at the beginning of the movie, they do show you there's all the doors for the holidays, and he only opened Christmas, so he could go back to the other ones and not want to obsess in changing it or adding to it, but just to see how they can incorporate it in their town. Not change it for some other town, but,
Terrorize it.
Right. Terrorize his own town who would like that kind of thing. But everybody's always like, oh, Jack and Sally. He did her wrong. I mean, he did her wrong. She was constantly telling him, you don't need this. Hey, look at me. I love you. I love you. And he never saw her until everything went to crap, So I would like to see a second version, or not, a part 2.
With a better Jack.
Yeah, a better Jack. Give us a different holiday, Or hell, I would be interested in Halloween Town just on Halloween, What does he do? They didn't go into any of that. He's the Pumpkin King. Why is he the Pumpkin King, So. Part 2.
Cool. Could be interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I actually I struggled with this one too. For a lot of the same reasons Liz stated. I mean, anything that I cared about either had a sequel or shouldn't have had a sequel in the first place.
Yeah.
So I had to stretch a bit. I had to get a little creative. So here's an example of me being creative. The first one I picked is E.T.
Hmm.
So I want to base this modern day. So basically, like 40 years later. The main stars of this movie I'm looking at in terms of the two kids. So they were not like super old then, so they would be grown-ups now.
Yeah.
And I mean, clearly the story from that movie, that's some influential stuff. That's some stuff that's going to affect a couple of small kids.
Yeah.
They're going to grow up with that. And I think it would be interesting to paint the picture of this brother and sister, Elliot and Gertie, and see how different their lives can turn out. So my story makes one of them like an aerospace engineer, and the other one like an alien crackpot person. And I haven't even decided which one should be which. I don't think it matters. I think it would be fun to play with that, with them grown up. Whether you bring the alien back for the movie or not, I actually think it might be more interesting if you don't. But to see how influential that experience was for them in their grown up lives,
Yeah.
and how it affects all of them, I think you could tell an interesting story with that.
Well, I was always curious about Elliot after E.T. left, because when E.T. was there, they were tied so closely together that it made him sick. So I'm wondering, after E.T. left, did that have any, like, lasting consequences on him?
Right. See, and that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about. Is there's a bunch of stuff in that movie that you could pursue a story
like,
for years afterwards.
E.T. tapped into him. Did he tap into E.T. and learn anything?
Right.
Yeah, that'd be pretty interesting. I hear Drew's free.
I'm not sure Henry Thomas is doing anything much these days either. I'm not sure he's doing a lot of acting. So might be fun.
That would be pretty fun.
Yeah. Cool. That's definitely different. I like that. I like that a lot.
I do too. Yeah, this was a difficult one. Because I was looking at a list and I said, Raiders. No, they've already done some of those.
They did that.
Halloween, yeah, they've already done some of those. Oh, Rear Window. No, they've already done that. But I thought with a different look, maybe even updated a bit, not much by when it was, or the time frame it was shown in the original, but Clue. I think Clue would have been a fun picture to do with the new cast, and not necessarily in the late 40s, early 50s, but bring it up to the 60s/70s.
Okay.
And kind of go with that. Have some fun with that. Do not take the humor out of it, because that was probably the big selling point of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
There was some mystery to it, but it was so much fun to try to get to the end of the mystery, which, if you watched it originally, you spent a hell of a lot of cash going to different theaters to see the different endings. So something like that I think would be fun, and maybe fun enough to the public so they can relive humor as it was supposed to be, and not just take schlock that they have now and release it. So that was my first choice.
That's cool.
And hey, as long as it doesn't turn into the Clue version of Dracula 1972, I'm down with the idea.
Okay.
Well, Netflix has a couple of shows now that are interactive that you can kind of choose what happens next. That would be kind of cool to do with Clue, where you kind of choose your own ending kind of thing, where it puts you as part of it.
That's a thought.
Yeah.
Well, there was a play that was done, and we were talking Loretta Swit earlier. She starred in this on Broadway. It's called Drood. It was based on the unfinished work of
Dickens.
Charles Dickens. And it was a mystery, and it was considered interactive because you, the audience, got to decide the ending. There were multiple endings, and they said, who do you want in the love interest? Who do you want to be the villain? Things like that. So every show, when they took those polls, was different. And that would be fun to see on a screen.
That would.
That does sound cool.
Yeah. Definitely. That would be cool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, for my first one, I love the original film. It was a blast. I know doing a sequel, it's going to lose a little something because of the premise of the original film, but I'd still like to see just one sequel with these two particular characters back together, or the actors together again, because I thought they had pretty good chemistry. And I want a sequel to True Lies.
That'd be cool.
To where you actually, with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jamie Lee Curtis, where they were actually working as spies. Just one sequel. It doesn't have to be a franchise. Just one sequel. Just see how it goes. But like I said, you lose something because the whole thing was her not knowing he was a spy and everything that was going on. So in the original film, I get that. You're going to lose that dynamic.
What do you replace that with? That's the trick.
Yeah.
You got to find some way to give it that twist.
Yeah. You figure that out. There's your sequel.
The mother-in-law.
There you go. That could work.
I love the fact that she wanted to be called Natasha. And they decided her code name would be Doris.
That's great. I haven't seen
That's
that
a
in
good
a long
choice.
time.
That is.
Okay.
All right. My second one. This one, it's kind of more of I want the second one because I want to know what happened aftermath. My original heartthrob, Christian Slater, and it was Pump Up the Volume. He was a radio DJ, which actually also introduced me to my love of Leonard Cohen because he played a lot of his music in this movie. But it kind of reminded me of like a Footloose kind of thing where you weren't allowed to do certain things and the kids had to be seen and not heard. And he comes up with like a pirate radio where he's like, screw that, who are they, and his slogan was talk hard, so he kind of motivated these kids to to rebel, to do something, you know. So I'm more curious in the aftermath of after all this happened and they finally got their word across. Did anything change? Did he give up his radio show? You know, what happened? So, but yeah, I think this one came out because they were still riding the high of Gleaming the Cube, and they were hitting in on his popularity. But people stayed for the music, you know, because the soundtrack was amazing to this one. But yeah, I'd like to know what happened.
Okay.
Interesting. I never pegged you as a Christian Slater groupie.
Yeah, he was. Well, I was a skater at the time that Gleaming the Cube came out.
Ah, okay. So this was before the change of scene.
Yeah, and he's cute, you know.
Oh, I'm not disputing that.
He always reminded me of like a very young Jack Nicholson. The way that their mannerisms and heck, even the way he talks sometimes, you know. Mm-hmm. Although you watch Easy Riders and you're like, maybe not. But yeah, my version of Jack Nicholson when he was young was Christian Slater.
Yeah, go back and watch The Raven sometime. We'll see how much that changes.
I don't know if I've seen that one. Because I had my falling out with Christian Slater when Brad Pitt came along.
Wow.
But don't tell him.
You realize this is going out to the public, right?
Well, hey, if Brad Pitt or Christian Slater has a problem with that, you're more than welcome to call me. My number is...
Come on the show, right. Come hang out with us, and we'll talk all about it. We will air all that dirty laundry.
We will discuss it personally.
Heck, we'll do it naked.
No, wait a second. No one wants to hear me naked.
Just our guests.
Hey there, ladies and gentlemen, we have a title.
I think so. Dang. Okay, before this gets any weirder.
Too late.
It'll be our most listened to show because it has naked in the title.
You're probably not wrong.
Our listeners are going to see the new episode, and with that, no one wants to hear me naked. And they'll go, who the hell said that? Because it could have been any one of them.
Could have been anybody.
And then they'll be disappointed. Oh, it's him.
Will they? I don't know about that.
I don't know. Could go either way.
Yeah.
All right. So my second pick, and again, well, I'm not going to harp on the fact that this whole thing was awkward for me. But this one is actually the one that might be controversial, so I'm going to throw it down here right now. Because this is a movie we've talked about before on this show. And bear with me on it, but I want a sequel to Student Bodies. And the reason I think this would be interesting, or could be interesting anyway, is, I mean, Student Bodies was essentially a send-up of slasher movies that was made very quickly and very cheaply in the middle of the slasher movie craze in the very early 80s. I think horror films have come a long way since then. And I think there's a lot of room for send-ups because of that. I think you could go in a lot of different directions. And I'm not talking no scary movie bullshit neither. I'm talking about taking this serious, taking the funny seriously here. I'm not talking about just cheap jokes. And I'm talking about some serious, like, satirical stuff that you could really just go nuts with. And I don't know that you could get away with that in any other way, really, than to do a sequel to a honestly kind of obscure horror movie parody. from the early 80s. I think it would be a great opportunity to just go nuts from a filmmaking standpoint.
Yeah.
I love it. I think that's a great idea.
That is. It'd be nice to have Scary back.
Because I've watched the scary movies, and just none of them have been funny. None of them. Even when the Wayans brothers moved on, and it was like, was it Pat Proft and I forgot who else who were involved with the Airplane movies, and I thought, okay, well maybe they'll do that kind of humor, and it did not work. It was horrible. They were just all bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were, and they could have been so good, and they just didn't bother to make them good.
Yeah.
And I would like to see somebody do that, please.
Yep.
All right, Wes.
My second choice would be looking back at I would not say it's famous, but I'm sure there are people that would believe that it is. But look back and redo Howard the Duck. It could be fit now into the MCU. So if they're going to pull out BS for some of their movies, why not make it something that is viable? And to me, this one is viable. I look back at some of the MCU movies now, and there are so many plot holes that there's not enough gap to close them up. So, yeah, I think give this one a try and see what happens. See how this one turns out.
We bring in Leah Thompson back?
Only if she yells Marty.
Some sort of cameo. It's got to be.
Got to.
Sure, why not?
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not reaching for applaud or something like that. To me, it would just be fun to have.
Sure.
Something that's actual.
I mean, they've been taking some risks with some of their choices for films, so I mean, why not?
It would be different, that's for sure.
It would definitely, it would be different.
And that's not always a bad thing.
Yeah. Take some risks.
Mm-hmm.
All right, for my second choice, I'm also picking a movie that has been discussed on the show before. It's a film that we all enjoyed, even with all of its problems. And honestly, a lot of the problems was the marketing or lack thereof, and then some issues with story structure. But it would really be cool if we had a sequel to John Carter.
Hear, hear.
I'm down.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the movie. I overall, I enjoyed the movie. And I thought, I would have loved to see a follow-up. And of course, we won't get that. Well, we may get a reboot at some point, but and I'll be happy for that. But this could have been Disney's Star Wars before Star Wars. Before they obtained Lucasfilm, if handled properly.
And there was the problem.
Right.
They didn't handle it properly.
If handled properly. It amazes me that they were willing to just throw all that money away. But whatever.
Yeah, well, they got it all back with Age of Ultron a couple of months later, so, you know.
Yeah, and unfortunately that's how it works. But yeah.
And personally, I didn't think Age of Ultron was all that. So.
Yeah.
You know, I remember you telling me that at the time too.
Yeah. I didn't enjoy it as much, but you know. Alrighty. Do we have a third round in this?
I have a third one, which
Okay.
people might not be on board with this because I don't know how you would do it without upsetting a lot of people. Labyrinth.
Ah!
I know people don't want to touch it because Bowie did such a wonderful, amazing job, and I would never change a single thing about the first one. You can't, don't reboot it, don't, you know. But I would like to see Toby grown up and find out that his sister got him kidnapped by a Goblin King because she didn't want to deal with him anymore. I'd like to see the aftermath of that.
You might not need a whole movie for that.
How's that brother-sister relationship now? You know, but something kind of his own struggle of, you know, his own coming of age tale.
Oh, you know what you could do? Turn the tables. Toby turns 18, and then he has to save his sister, who is now admittedly older, but gets kidnapped, which was part of the deal that they didn't mention somehow or whatever, in her getting Toby back.
Yeah.
I have no idea if that makes sense.
Or Toby has to become the Goblin King.
Ooh. There's a thought.
That way you really wouldn't step on any toes of replacing Bowie because Toby's already been there, you know. And isn't it weird that the actor's name for Toby's name was Toby?
No. That's not weird at all. It doesn't make any difference.
It's weird.
They probably just wrote the name in after they had the baby, because Toby was literally a baby.
Yeah. Easier to get him to respond to his name.
Right.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool to see, though.
It's an interesting idea.
I like that idea.
Yeah. Because I know anytime they've talked about it, everybody's been like, "No, you're disrespecting Bowie," and you know, I can see that.
Get over it.
Right. You know, he's been gone a little while now, and you know,
these fans, it really gets on my nerves because you know I won't go too far into this.
Too late.
The whole thing with after Carrie Fisher had died, you know, and the decision of how to handle the last movie.
Yeah.
Without having Leia. What are we going to do? We going to CGI her? Are we going to recast her and all that? And there was all this uproar. And then the movie comes out, and then these same people who didn't want her to be recast and all that wants these movies redone. I'm like, then how are you going to explain what happened to Leia?
Yep.
So, you know, that's just the way my mind works sometimes. It's just like, you know, whatever. So, in a rant.
Yeah. Well, because even not being there, she was a big part of that movie.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So.
And when I read the article you posted, I guess it was today, about DC's timeline, I felt that would be a fun thing to go through and follow that to get its continuity, and you'd never have to have the problems that DC faced, the problems that Marvel is going to be facing, except they just go, oh, well, we were lying.
Yeah.
Let's go on with a new story.
Yeah.
But to me, that would have been a fun read.
It was definitely interesting. And for those who are wondering what we're talking about, there was an article in Bleeding Cool basically revealing the timeline Dan DiDio had that was leading up to the 5G whatever you want to call it, for DC Comics.
Hmm.
And I kind of looked at it, and it was interesting. I kind of find it funny how they were basically having Bruce and Clark in their early 50s, and Dick would be in his early 40s. Tim would be almost 30. And I'm like, wow, okay, that is interesting.
That would be.
But once again, that's that whole discussion of, do you want your characters to age and all that? And I'm kind of torn. I understand those wanting Bruce to be eternally 30, but somehow you have to explain how Dick was
a man. Yeah.
Is in his late 20s, but he's been a superhero for 20 years. The timing doesn't really work, but that's if you want to think about that kind of stuff, which there's times I do, there's times I don't.
Well, and clearly there's times DC does and times DC doesn't also, and that's that's fine too.
Well, and I think when Miller got a hold of Batman and did The Dark Knight Returns, that was pretty interesting too, because you'd never really thought of Batman as vulnerable as he was portrayed in that one. And it's because he got older. It's not that he couldn't keep up, it's that his body could no longer keep up with what he was doing.
Yeah. Well, and some of these who don't want these characters to grow older are also the ones who would love to see Old Man Bruce in a Batman Beyond. It's like, so, okay, well, how do you work that? Unless you have different universes, which is fine.
Yeah. But that's kind of why I'm enjoying Titans. It's not a young Batman. They've showed him a few times. He's an older gentleman. He just kind of gets to the point where he's like, sometimes you got to let the Robin fly, And it's kind of neat to see him in that, because he can go back and, maybe I did mess up here, So, yeah, but I've always viewed comics as fantasy, and you don't really age in fantasy, Peter Parker will always be a teenage boy. It's just kind of...
Well, no, actually, no. That's part of the problem. Marvel wanted him to be the teenager, but he's graduated college and was actually a student teacher at one point, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Well, you can't be a teenager and actually graduate college unless you're just, an Einstein,
right?
The smartest person on the planet. Which I guess you could do that, but
That's a different kind of sequel right there.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right.
Okie dokie. My turn, finally. My third pick is actually another movie that we've talked about not so long ago, really. And I vaguely remembered that the general consensus was that the ending was not, I guess, what we wanted. So, and it didn't. We weren't sure where things were going to go from there. So let's figure it out. Let's do a sequel to Time Bandits. I say let's start this sucker off right after the first one. I mean, so you pretty much have to recast Kevin, but that's okay too. We'll manage. And I think the way this thing starts out is Kevin pulls out his Polaroid with the map on it and starts jumping through portals.
Yeah.
To try to get, probably to start with, to try to get back to ancient Greece, where he got yoinked from where he wanted to stay. I think it would not make sense to make that be the first jump, so you have to find a way to build a story out of this. But I think, honestly, the adventures along the way is half the fun of the first movie. So
Yep.
let's
Exactly.
just kind of go with that. Maybe he somehow picks up another crew to run with along the way. People to help him, or people who are just basically lost in their own time. I think it could be fun.
Yeah.
It could be, yeah.
How about the return of the original crew with Kevin being older? Now he's an adult, and all of a sudden they pop in, and he is forced into making the run with them. And he has to, almost like It, where the kids have to remember what they did in the past to complete it in the future. How about that angle?
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be fun too.
Yep. You could do that.
Like I
Unfortunately,
said,
there's going to be a lot of recasting there, though, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, you're
Yeah.
gonna get that anyway, so
Oh, true.
why not?
Well, I mean, a lot of those people are no longer with us.
Right. True enough.
So,
But yeah, this is. I mean,
But yeah,
that's
it's-
the greatness of this movie is you could go in countless different directions with it, and it would
Yeah.
still be fun.
Yep.
yeah, I'm not against the idea. I like the idea.
Then why'd you make it sound like you were?
Oh.
Ouch.
Go,
Beep.
why don't you go put your clothes on, Wes? Okay?
I'm sorry, it's just too easy to pass up.
You don't have to be sorry. As many of those
Thanks.
as we hammer you with, come on. You can give back occasionally. That's fine. Share the love.
I'm not sure I want to talk about a third one now.
Go ahead, Les. What's your third choice?
Well, it was a toss-up. I couldn't decide between Robot Monster, which I still love. I think it's a science fiction movie that was made and not supposed to be made fun of, but it's just so inaccurate. Or the other inaccurate movie, Heaven's Gate. That god-awful, long, really long. But I'm going to go with Robot Monster just because I enjoyed it. There are so many other movies, bad movies, that I could name, and some of them were box office hits. But what was the one with Robert Redford and where he was the Out of Africa. Did anyone of this group see that?
No.
If I saw it, it was in the mid 80s when it came out, and that was a long time ago for me.
Yeah. Just consider yourself lucky that you didn't have to sit through that drivel. But, yeah, Robot Monster, just because it was goofy.
So your pick's Heaven Gate. Okay.
Now, was there
No.
Heaven's Gate a cult?
Yes, there was.
But the movie was a Western.
Okay.
Yeah, the movie was decades before that.
Yeah, it was like early 80s, something like that.
And
Early mid-80s.
And it was the most expensive movie at that time ever made.
Huh.
And it did not live up to its
It bombed.
oh,
Almost nuclear bombed.
Yeah, I think we mentioned this when we talked about Dick Tracy because it was a Warren Beatty thing.
Yeah.
Huh.
It was like his movie before Dick Tracy.
I have to look that one up because I only knew of
Do
the
you really?
cult that lived like half a mile away from me. Yeah, they came in and bought up houses on the other side of Kingsley, like a whole block.
Really?
Yeah.
Weird.
It was weird. That was like the Y2K thing and everything, right? And then as quick as everybody heard about them, they just kind of disappeared.
Was that them, or was it Halley's Comet? Which one was Halley's Comet?
I don't know. This was Heaven's Gate because the kids were.
Well, no, well, you were talking about it being Y2K. I guess I get them mixed up with another cult who committed suicide when the last time Halley's Comet was coming by, because they were supposedly joining with it.
That is them.
Okay.
Yep, that was them.
Okay. All right, so I'm next. And for my third choice, it's a movie we have talked about before. It's been a while. It's by one of my favorite directors. He's right up there. Who has a knack for ending a movie with not all the questions answered, and you wonder what the hell where do we go from here? And it could actually apply to a lot of the films, but the one I'm picking right now is John Carpenter's The Thing. Okay, does the Thing actually freeze, or is it actually discovered by a rescue group and brought back to the main world, where all hell breaks loose? What do we do? You know, do Childs and McCree survive? Probably not. As cold as it was getting, someone was going to have to get there pretty damn quick before they froze to death. But assuming they're dead, you know, what happens to the actual Thing?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's going to be hard not to make fun of the title of this one. Because you're going to call it The Other Thing? Or The Next Thing?
The thing after that.
The next big thing.
Or that thing that you do.
Or Charles Adams, The Thing.
The thing on the doorstep.
That crazy thing called love. Come on, Liz, join in.
I'm still zoned out on Heaven's Gate.
Oh, God.
She's found Halley's Comet is with them. She's gone. All right, that's our list. Kind of like that list. It's pretty good.
Yep, that was.
It was a lot more fun than it first sounded it was going to be.
Right.
Yeah, I got to admit, started thinking about this and trying to figure out what I was going to do, and I was a little worried. But yeah, apparently I wasn't alone, and we still managed to come up with some good stuff.
True.
So we'll do this again next week.
No, we will not.
Look at your program.
Lightning in a bottle. Lightning in a bottle.
Okay, whatever. And on that note, we are going to take a quick break and be back with our weekly picks. And we're back. It's time for our weekly picks, and leading off is Mikey.
Yay, I get to go first. I'm always so excited to go first. Anyway, my first pick is from Vault Comics, and I am picking The Last Book You'll Ever Read, #1. This is a fun idea. So Olivia is the main character, and she has written a book which contains the truth, and there's definitely air quotes around that. and the truth has something to do with basically the end of civilization and all that. And her book is a really big hit, and she wants to go on a book tour, except that her book is being blamed for a lot of violent behavior among its readers. So she hires a security guy to go with her on her book tour, and she told the guy, "You're not allowed to read this." So yeah, this is definitely some fun psychological horror. Possibly not surprising by our old buddy Cullen Bunn. And this is going to be a whole lot of fun.
Yeah, he shouldn't read her book. He should read Sutter Kane. So, it sounds great. I like the premise. Mm-hmm. It should be fun.
Yeah, I think that was on all our lists.
Very much.
Good choice.
Alrighty, I am next, and for my first, for my first choice, it's a graphic novel from Dark Horse Comics, entitled Operation Dragon. And this is a story of 3 soldiers in World War II that are investigating a top secret plan by the Japanese. It's a super weapon. A force of dinosaurs.
Cool.
So they're going to find out if they actually have trained dinosaurs that they're just going to be used as a weapon. I'm like, okay, this could be fun. And of course, these soldiers are a disgraced ex-cop, a mobster trying to escape his past, and an intelligence officer with quote-unquote mysterious motives. Those are always fun.
Oh, yeah. So. Does this remind you of Dinosaurs for Hire? Do you remember that comic?
No, but I was thinking more along what was the war comic that had all of the, it was by DC, that was,
it's like Star Spangled War Stories or
something like that.
Yeah.
Or the war that, or the time, the land that time forgot, or something like that. It was basically a war comic, but you also had the mythical or monster. Well, dinosaurs are not mythical, but you know what? Y'all know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
It does sound like a precursor to like a kaiju movie or something, doesn't it?
Yeah. So it should be fun. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a graphic novel, so you know it's all done in one, and hopefully it's good enough that where we might have a sequel.
Sequels? Wait, what are those?
Yeah.
Let's go back. I would say Raiders, Halloween, Rear Window.
All right, Les, you are next.
Thank you, sir. From Dark Horse Comics comes Parasomnia. This is issue 2. This, too, is a Cullen Bunn book in which you have a child that is missing in one dimension, and he's he's missing in the other dimension. In the dimension of the weird, a stranger is battling nightmares to find the missing son. But in the waking world, the son's parents are falling apart with the onslaught of what they say, hopelessness and insidious cultists. I read first issue. I enjoyed it. I'm going to make sure I get this one every month.
does sound good.
Cool.
Sweet.
We're on the Colt run tonight, aren't we?
Apparently, we're on a Cullen Bunn run tonight too.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, Liz, continue that trend.
All right. Well, mine's kind of like Dinosaurs for Hire. This one's from Source Point. It's called War Corns.
5 times fast. Go.
War Corns. It's called The Birthday Bash. Now, this was originally started out on Kickstarter. And it was it's unicorns. How can it not be cute? But it was a cute story of unicorns who joined the army. And they kind of did the whole Full Metal Jacket boot camp kind of thing and went on to like a almost Star Troopers kind of story. So they fought in outer space. They fought weird magical beasts here on Earth. And this time, they say they come up on the scariest thing any human can possibly imagine. A kid's birthday party.
Dun, dun.
I can totally relate. This was what caught my eye on this one is on the cover. It kind of looks like he's going crazy at a birthday party. So it was like, oh, I have to see if these unicorns get her or war corns get her in her place. So should be cute.
Cute.
I'm scared
I think
already.
it is a one shot, so one and done.
Unicorns are cute, huh?
Mm-hmm. And they have some really cute covers for this one too. So
She must not remember that scene from Cabin in the Woods, huh, Mikey? That was real cute. With a unicorn.
but normally they're cute.
And she heard the telling of the By the Horns coming out too. But,
Yeah.
Yeah, unicorns are
Yeah.
just so playful.
See, that girl wants to kill these guys.
That's right.
From her cover, I think she does.
Alrighty. Mike, you're up again.
Okie dokie. My second pick is from Source Point Press, and this is a graphic novel called Black of Heart. And this is the story of a cop, a detective in New York City in 1949, and he is trying to track down a serial killer who is his headquarters is basically a taxi cab, and the Detective Harper is, I mean, not surprisingly in this kind of story, having a difficult time in his personal life as well. So sounds like some cool noir type stuff. I'm down for that.
Cool. Me
Yeah,
too.
this was on my radar, so yeah, definitely worth checking out. Alrighty, I'm up again, and for my second choice is the first issue of a new series, and this is from Black Box Comics, Gin Hunter. And this is a story of a group. Apparently, it's a rogue Jinn and his minions who are granting wishes to mortals, which is causing untold horrors, quote unquote. So the Elder Council are sending out a Jinn Hunter to stop him. Otherwise, there could be untold chaos. So I thought this is kind of an interesting idea.
Does sound cool.
I like chaos.
No shit.
Okay, you remember, just cut this out and keep this. The next time she says something about something's going on, we just play it for her. Say, remember, you like chaos.
I like planned chaos.
Backing it up now. I see.
Gotta dig out of that hole, but yeah, planned chaos.
Yeah, planned chaos, whatever the hell that is.
Right.
Alrighty, Les, you're next.
In my second choice from Dark Horse Comics, you get two of the mightiest fighters in comic world. One of them has faced Conan. The other has faced John Carter of Mars. Now they get to face each other. This is Gru meets Tarzan.
Mm-hmm.
I want this so bad because I remember the series that they had done with Gru and Conan with the two artistic styles in the book. You had the Gru look and you had a Conan look. I think was Tom Yates that did that. In this one, I think Yates comes in and does Tarzan, and Sergio Aragonés does Gru.
Yeah.
So sit back and just enjoy.
Awesome.
I'm surprised. I totally missed that they were doing this, but I'm happy that they're doing this because the Conan meets Gru or versus Gru. That was a fun series, so I can believe that this will be just as good.
Yeah.
When I first scanned over it, I thought it was Groot. I thought that would be kind of funny. You Tarzan, you Groot. Sorry.
Wow.
And that
So I first
reminds
say the title. I had to look that back up. It was like,
Planned chaos, everybody.
Mm-hmm. I just have one word to say to you, Liz. Shocking.
that would be the conversation they had on Saturday Night Live with Frankenstein's monster, Tonto, and who is the third one? There's one other person, and all they do is grunt or have one word.
Yep.
So, yeah, Groot and Tarzan would just be one word per.
Yep. Oh, man. Now that it's Gru, I would totally read that.
Well, we told you that we're talking to the Darwin Awards even as we speak.
Right. Oh, man, I'm just off tonight. Whew.
Tonight.
Don't sell yourself short.
It's a full-time job.
Okay, Liz, what's your pick?
I don't even know.
Come on, I dare you.
My second pick is from Zenescope, and it's Belle, the Dragon Clan Annual. Excuse me. We've seen Belle in some pretty hairy situations, and we've always seen her come out on top. But they're saying this one, they're throwing something so old at her and not at this realm, so she may not have the knowledge to beat this. So it's an annual, which means we'll get the host story, no cliffhangers. Should be pretty good. I don't know if I've ever seen them fight dragons in Zenescope. I probably have, but sounds good.
Yep.
It does sound good.
Yep.
But the sound of it is bail now, bail now.
Yep. Bail now.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like Belle is really becoming a very popular character. She's been in a lot of different story, different stories and all that. So she's become very popular. That's kind of cool.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And with it being her annual, they're not going to kill her off.
Don't spoil it. Jeez.
She's going to kick some
Are you
drag
sure?
butt. Pretty sure.
They can kill her off and bring her back in a number one of a brand new series.
True. And be like, oh, that wasn't part of the continuity.
Oh.
Mike's like, can we get this over with, please?
No.
Are we done yet?
I've just been laughing so hard for the last 5 minutes, it's starting to hurt. Good problem to have.
Huh?
A good problem to have.
Yeah.
Just say, I got a lighter here that'll knock that smile.
That's all right. I'm good. I'm fine. Thank you.
And other stuff, too.
That's my friggin' eyebrows off, too.
All right. Any special shout-outs or mentions this week? Do we even try?
So many possible jokes. It's probably best to just move on.
Yeah, let's get this over with real quick. All right, we'll move on to our regular shout-outs. First off, we would go to Pop Goes the Culture Podcast Network for allowing us to be a part of a great group of fellow podcasts. Definitely check them out. There will be a link in the show notes. We also want you to check out the fine men and women who make up Podern Family, who've been gracious enough to spread the word of the fellowship by retweeting our tweets and our links. Definitely want you to check them out. The easiest way to do that is just do a search, hashtag Podern Family, all one word. Just scroll through and whatever catches your attention, by all means, click on that link, download that episode, and hope you have a good time listening to them. Thank you guys for your support as always. Want to thank Manny the Martyr for supplying the music to our podcast. There will be a link in the show notes. You can check out their music. And finally, you, dear listener, thank you for listening. We appreciate your support as always, and we value your feedback. If you have a question, comment, suggestion, complaint, observation, what have you, please send them our way. There are several ways you can do that. Our email address is email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. Or you can go to the website and go to the About Us page, and there's a contact form that you can fill out there. We talked about the Discord earlier. We do have a section to where you can fill out your feedback, or you can message us individually there. We are on Facebook, The Fellowship of the Geeks, and we're obviously on Twitter, @Fellowship Geeks. Feel free to follow us there. If you like to follow our personal Twitter accounts, Mike can be found @MikeyGeek. Liz can be found @LN_geek. Les may or may not be found @FakeLesWebster. And I can be found @TomTCGeek. And from wherever you download our episodes, if you would please take a couple moments to rate and review us, it would be greatly appreciated. Anything else before we say goodbye?
Just thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Appreciate you listening.
Thanks for listening, everybody. We do appreciate your support as always. Until next time, geek on, my friends.
We thank you for listening to the show. Comments, suggestions, and questions can be sent to email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. You can follow us on Facebook @The Fellowship of the Geeks and on Twitter @Fellowship Geeks. Until next time,